Welcome back to Liberty Nation TV. This is Scott Cosenza, and Graham Noble is joining me today, and we're going to talk about the recent North Korean missile test and what it might mean between war between the Korean Peninsula and the United States of America. Graham, as of right now, what is established? Can the North Koreans currently hit the United States of America with a nuclear missile?
Well, Scott, it seems that they may well now have the ability to hit anywhere within the mainland United States with a ICBM or intercontinental ballistic missile. However, they are not yet at the point where they can mount a nuclear warhead on one of those missiles. And of course, once they get to that point, then that's a game changer.
Okay, Graham, can you tell us, so what's the reason why they currently can't do that? And also, can you tell us what's the difference between a ballistic missile and a regular missile?
Well, they're not far enough advanced in their nuclear program yet to actually miniaturize a nuclear device to the point where they can actually mount it as a warhead onto a missile. However, there is some speculation that they may well now have that capability within about a year from now. In terms of the missiles itself, an intercontinental ballistic missile, as opposed to, say, what we call a cruise missile is something that is powered and guided all the way to its target, whereas a ballistic missile is actually fired on a trajectory, on an arcing trajectory, and it will be powered, so the propellant that it will use actually burns up, getting it to the sufficient altitude so that it's going to reach its designated target. But then its propellant, or the fuel if you like, burns up in flight, and it continues the rest of its flight and drops onto its designated target through forces of gravity, basically. So if you like, that allows it to have quite a longer range, hence intercontinental.
Okay, and we know that South Korea responded with a precision missile firing drill, and because I read that, my question to you is, what is that, and is there any practical defense for a country to a ICBM?
Oh, well, we don't have a huge amount of information about the South Korean military drill, Scott. We do know that they fired one or more missiles basically as a show of force, and the whole point of the drill was to show the North, or once again demonstrate to the North, that South Korea has the ability to fire precision missiles at targets within North Korea. Now, in terms of defense against a missile, certainly the US military has missile defense capabilities, and you know, they've had tests in the past, and tests have been successful, although it is said that certainly on the West Coast, that some of the missile defense systems are not necessarily fully operational, which is kind of concerning. I don't really think anyone wants to get to the point where we actually have to rely on shooting nuclear-tipped ballistic missiles out of the sky.
Yeah, certainly not. It seems like might be like shooting a bullet with a bullet in terms of difficulty. All right, so finally, Graham, and I ask you this as I know that you were a soldier and saw combat, and I want to know from your perspective, what do you think a war with North Korea would look like? Is this something where missiles are being shot and you know, boots are not on the ground, and or are we going to see, you know, masses of, if the worst should happen, are we going to see masses of troops, U.S. and other and South Korean presumably invade the North?
I don't see really any realistic possibility of a ground war with North Korea. I don't think there's any appetite to put American boots on the ground in North Korea. I certainly know that, you know, the Chinese are never going to want that to happen. I think if there was even any suggestion that the United States was going to launch a ground invasion of North Korea, I rather think the Chinese at that point might do it themselves beforehand. A ground war in North Korea would be horrific because the North Koreans have a very, very large army. Now, you know, those guys are not going to last more than a few minutes against US and South Korean troops. I mean, a ground war would be over fairly quickly. But I think realistically, if we get to the point where we are actually at war with North Korea, it's going to be missiles, and it's going to be airstrikes.
All right, let me interrupt with, all right, let me cut in, Graham, with one last question. Do we have a sense now, does the world have a sense, a reliable sense of how many nuclear bombs or devices North Korea currently has?
No, as far as I know, don't quote me on this, but as far as I know, we don't have any real accurate estimates on how many nuclear devices they may have. I mean, I think the realistic expectation at this point is that they probably do not have many more than the few that they are testing. You know, obviously they're not wasting all their devices on testing, if wasting is a good word. They're not using all the devices they have on testing. They must have others in addition to the ones they've tested, but how many exactly they have is anybody's guess. The most important thing right now is that they are not yet capable of mounting any of those devices on a missile.
Thank you, Graham. For Graham Noble, this is Scott Cosenza for LibertyNation.com. Thank you for joining us.